Society, a Cosmological Reflection by Tim Weatherald. In this presentation, I will argue that all social, cultural, and political institutions emerge from cosmological beliefs. By examining the early emergence of Christianity and Islam, I will demonstrate how the change in religious beliefs radically altered the social, cultural, and political landscape of the world. Emil Durkheim, in his seminal work, The Elementary Forms of Religious Life, argues that religious rituals and sacraments reflect the social, cultural, and political institutions and structures of society. Hence, religious cosmologies and their ritual practices emerge from both individual need and social imperatives, which are often hidden from the societies from which they have emerged. Yet Durkheim himself recognizes that nearly all great social institutions are born in religion, but then concludes, if religion gave birth to all that is essential in society, that is so because the idea of society is the soul of religion. However, as both Christianity and Islam demonstrate, religion is in fact the soul of society. The anthropological record shows that all cultures have a cosmological narrative that explains the origin and nature of the world and our place in the natural order. It is this cosmological and divine narrative that impose social imperatives and determine their institutional and cultural norms. This is evidenced by the emergence of Christianity and Islam and their effects on social, cultural, and political environments, even today. Both Christianity and Islam have their genesis within the scope of world history. We know their origins and their cosmologies, what they share with the preceding ancient beliefs they are derived from, and where they diverge and introduce new beliefs. We can also see how these changes in religious beliefs change social, cultural, and political constructs. There was considerable conflict during the times when the teachings and cosmological understandings of Christ and Muhammad began to rise. Many scholars believe both were socially and politically motivated and that their religious teachings were rooted in a desire for social and political reform. They assumed both had social and political agendas and their religious teachings were a means to an end. However, as historian Peter Frankopan in The Silk Roads, A New History of the World observes, the most powerful ideas during the times of Christ and Muhammad were those that concerned the divine. Early Christian beliefs were apolitical and focused on religious values. The Apostle Peter, for instance, exhorts believers to subject themselves to the political authorities in 1 Peter 2:13. However, as the cosmological beliefs changed from polytheism to Christianity, they created a social, cultural, and political conflict. As the new religion began to expand and grow, it threatened the existing power structures and eventually replaced them with Christian ideology. Even if, as many scholars believe, the New Testament Gospels of Christ's life were changed to promote the more Pauline depiction of a pacifist Christ, the social and political changes emerged out of the changing beliefs. Further, any social and or political agenda was derived out of Christ's religious teachings and divine imperatives. Indeed, after the 3rd century, it would be difficult to separate Christianity from the political, social, and cultural institutions which did emerge, making it difficult to clearly distinguish social from religious motivations. However, the power of the Christian cosmology and its influence on social and cultural institutions is clearly seen in our own Constitution. All men are created equal, which is the foundation of our constitutional democracy. Whereas early Christian beliefs were passive and resulted in organic revolution and change, Muhammad's vision demanded jihad to bring the rule of God to the world. Islamic historian Chase F. Robinson notes, conquering was done for the sake of God, and ruling, which took imperial form in a caliphate, was done to effect God's order on earth. Even today, the goal of Muslim jihad is to effect God's order and rule on earth. Nor can this worldview and its resulting cultural norms or social and political institutions be divorced from the Muslim belief that God ordained Muhammad and his followers to establish God's kingdom. Again, as with Christianity, the social order is a direct reflection of the divine purpose. Durkheim argues that the most bizarre, barbarous rites and the strangest myths translate some human need in some aspect of life, whether social or individual. The reasons the faithful settle for in justifying those rites and myths may be mistaken, and most often are, but the true reasons exist nonetheless, and it is the business of science to uncover them. Almost any rite or myth can be explained in terms of the human need or aspect of life it speaks to. However, all such explanations are speculations grounded in the assumption that the cosmology from which they are derived cannot possibly be true, and therefore have some other origin within the human and social framework. But perhaps the need is less about hidden needs and more about true belief. If all cosmologies attempt to explain the divine, then all rights and cultures attempt to maintain the cosmological balance demanded by the divine. The human need and the aspect of life Durkheim alludes to is health, prosperity, and security, which are in the power of the gods and the spirits. For instance, communion, within many Christian denominations such as Catholicism, is a sacrament required by God as a part of salvation and a condition of grace. Likewise, going to church on Sunday when the faithful would rather be watching a football game is a divine imperative. The need driving these rituals and sacraments is fear of being on the wrong side of God. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "If Christianity is untrue, then no honest man will want to believe it, however helpful it might be. If it is true, every honest man will want to believe it, even if it gives him no help at all." The power of religion and society is that the cultures being studied believe their cosmologies to be true, not because they are somehow useful. It is not necessary to evaluate the truth claims of a culture's cosmology. It is only necessary to recognize that those cultures believe them to be true. And as C.S. Lewis observes, honest people embrace what they believe to be true, even if it is not particularly helpful or useful. All people, cultures, and societies are more affected by what they believe to be true than the truth itself. All cultures have a cosmological narrative that explains our origins and our place within the natural world and order. Humanism, secularism, and evolution are cosmologies with their own rites, sacraments, and social institutions. Perhaps it is less important to find the origins of religion as it is to understand the power of faith in social and cultural evolution. The origin of religion is a subjective pursuit which can only be answered by our own biases and our own culture's cosmology. However, even if the narratives and myths change, there is one universal constant shared by almost all cultures, that we are not here by random chance, but have some divine purpose.